Whenever a new form of art or entertainment comes into existence, it has to prove its relevance. Film, comic books, and theater all had to struggle with public acceptance, and there are still cases where their legitimacy as forms of artistic expression are called into question. For the last couple decades, a new means of art and entertainment has been put through the paces ruthlessly. Although they were initially considered harmless time wasters at restaurants and arcades, video games soon came under fire as developers pushed the envelope of what a game could be. Not only were the games demonized as murder or sex simulators, but the people who played them were targeted as well. The last few months have been especially dark for the gaming community, and as somebody who's seen the good that games have on people's lives, it saddens me to see that good so willfully ignored. Games have provided so much positivity in this world through people bonding and through charity work that I feel like it deserves to be spotlighted. This is why I'm starting ThanksGaming. Throughout November, I'll be uploading videos of friends of mine telling stories of how this fledgling industry has already done some good in the world. I know most of you don't need to be told that, like any artistic or entertainment medium, games have helped people through some rough times and helped forge friendships. But I think it's worth celebrating and remembering what an awesome community has formed around these time wasters.
I was first exposed to gaming back when my family had an NES. I used to watch my older sister play Super Mario Bros. Or Duck Hunt. I was too young to play those games at the time, though. I was only a few years old back then, so I was too young to even hold the controller. I didn't start playing games until a few years after my grandmother had bought a Nintendo 64 for me and my sister, and even then I didn't play right away. I would just continue to sit there and watch my sister or my Uncle Jeff or my cousins play all these Nintendo 64 games. Especially Super Mario 64. It's with that game that it's really where it all began for me. It's as far back as I can remember. That's where I trace my roots back to, is Super Mario 64. And I was fascinated by games at the time, even though I was a little afraid to play them. It was like this big strange new world to me, and I was a little afraid to enter it for myself. But once I actually started playing Mario 64 for the first time by myself, when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, I just fell in love with it right away. I can't even really explain how. It just magically happened. Things started clicking for me. You know, I would play it every day for hours on end. I would just get lost in this wide open world, this big colorful world where I could jump, I can run, I can wall climb, I can do anything. And it was really something surreal to me. It's really where my love for games grew from then, even if I didn't fully realize at the time. Back then I always just thought of it as something as like a time waster. I didn't think of anything more than that, even though more was happening than I realized. And you know, with Super Mario 64, this is really where my passion for Nintendo started. You know, Mario just became this identity for me. It was something that he was someone I could look up to. You know, he was offering his hand to me, and I would take it, and he was just showing me this brand new world that was video games. I think the first time I played Super Smash Bros. Was at my neighbor Josh's house. It was so many years ago. I went over to his house for a sleepover, and he actually had the game for Nintendo 64, and we just stayed up all night playing it. We just had so much fun. We didn't fully understand what we were doing at the time because we were still kids, but it was just so surreal. I mean, I had never seen all these other characters before. I recognized Mario, and he was the character I played as just because I remembered Mario 64, and he was the character that I could grow to identify with. And I'd never seen any of these other characters before, but it didn't really matter. I mean, this was a new game to me. It was a new concept. It was just yet another surprise for me of what gaming could accomplish at the time. And I just had never really considered it before. I even remember one time when Josh slept over at my house and he brought his copy of the game. We played it all night, and then the following day when he went home, he actually forgot his copy at my house. And I didn't tell him about it. I kept the game the whole weekend and just played it for myself. I just kept playing it and playing it. And then I gave it back to him on Monday and said, oh yeah, you forgot this. I said it very casually, but yeah, I actually felt kind of bad because I was keeping the game for myself, but I just loved it that much. I was just so in love with the game. I eventually got my own copy of the game for a birthday present the following year. And even though I moved away not long after and I never saw Josh again, it was okay, because even though I missed him, he gave me a gift, and that was finding Super Smash Bros. And that is something that I've kept with me in my heart all these years since then. I got better at the game as I got older. Before, when I first started playing it, I was not very good at the game at all. I didn't fully understand how to play it. I got my butt kicked a bunch, but you know, as I kept playing it, I kept practicing, and as I got older and went back to it, I could see more of it because my mind had developed and had expanded, and I really began to understand. I began to understand why I loved it so much. And so and my love for it just never diminished at all. And my love for the series has just grown over the years. I mean, when Melee came out, I found even more people to play with, and we just had a great time together. And then Brawl came around, and by that time, I finally had internet, because I didn't have it growing up. That's when I found YouTube, and I'd seen the Brawl trailer for the first time. I was so excited. I can't remember a time when I was more excited than that. Maybe the only other time was when I played Mario 64 for the first time. But, yeah, I just went online and I saw how excited people were. And that's essentially how I got my start on YouTube, is because of Super Smash Brothers. I was just so passionate for the series, and I just loved it so much, and I was so excited to meet other people who love the game too, and the rest is essentially history from there. I've been making videos about Super Smash Brothers and stuff, and other things I like as well, ever since then. Just because I love, meeting people, and that people that like the same things as me, and we just be able to share stories, and that's just so special to me. I've actually gone to a few tournaments in my area, in my town, and even though I didn't do as well at them as I'd hoped, I only came in like the top 16. It was still a great experience for me, because I got to meet so many new people, and to see that I wasn't alone in being so passionate about the series, to see that other people love the series just as much as me, that was just so reassuring. It was so surreal. I just absolutely loved that. I loved the way that Super Smash Bros. Brought people together, and the way that it still does today. As a kid, I really had a huge imagination. I loved playing with toys and action figures and pretending they were, actually alive, and I was making them interact and do impossible things like jump or climb impossible distances. So it was just something I was really passionate about, something I couldn't help but do whenever I was alone. I would always just pick up my figures and just make them, run or fight or do whatever, honestly. I was heavily influenced by movies like Toy Story and the idea that your toys, that they have feelings, that they can think for themselves, and that they get up and they do things when you're not around. As a kid, I was fascinated by that concept. It just made my love for imagination and pretending that they were alive. It just really furthered that for me. And Super Smash Bros. Really just embodied that idea of imagination and creativity. Even from its concept of these characters are just toys come to life, and that the Master Hand, the final boss, is really just the kid's hand. It's just the kid playing with his toys. I could really relate to that, because that's how I viewed the world. That's how I viewed playing with toys, is just pretending that they were alive in their own little world. I was in my own little world, in a sense. And even just with the embodiment of how Super Smash Bros. Is, it's creativity itself. You can play it however you want. You can play as any character, play on any stage, listen to any song you want, play with any sort of features or options or gimmicks. You can, even just with the concept itself of how Super Smash Bros. Differs from other fighting games. You have your percentage, but you can build it up however you want. So really, Super Smash Bros. Is really just sort of a canvas. It's a blank canvas, and it can be painted in any color depending on who the artist is. So I think I can really relate to Super Smash Bros. Because it really connects to imagination and to my creativity. And the reason imagination and creativity are so important to me is because that essentially is the heart of my character. That's who I am as a person. That is the imprint I leave on the world. Especially like in academics and school and everything. I think the reason I've done so well over the years in them is because of my imagination and my creativity. It's because I've been taught to have an open mind, to be open to new experiences and new ways of thinking, and that's really gone a long way in helping me to grasp the concepts of math and science and art and literature and history and just about everything. I'm able to learn and relate to these concepts and be able to explain what I've understood because I've had an open mind and I've been optimistic and open to these new ideas. But even just going beyond Super Smash Bros., Nintendo itself is really a symbol of imagination and creativity for me. They have so many characters, so many experiences, so many worlds. They're able to create so many memories for people, old memories and new ones through their experiences and through their visions of what gaming should be like. Through Super Smash Bros., I was introduced to all these Nintendo characters. I didn't know who any of them were besides maybe Mario, Yoshi, and Pikachu. But then, as I grew older and I grew to know more about Nintendo's history, That's when I started playing other Nintendo franchises like Kirby or Zelda, Metroid, Donkey Kong, and Star Fox. And, you know, I tried all these new experiences, and with mixed results. You know, some I just really clicked with, some I didn't. You know, I really loved Kirby and Pokemon and Star Fox. I kind of like Donkey Kong. I just couldn't really get into Zelda or Metroid. But, you know, even with some games I couldn't get into, I still respected them. I respected their place in Nintendo and their history and what they've done for people, because it was through Nintendo as I grew older that I grew to really respect people's differences. I respected their history. You know, people, if you ask anyone what Nintendo means to them, it's a different experience. They have a different story to tell. And you know what? I think that's what makes Super Smash Bros. Just such a great game. It's such a great series, is that it's not just bringing all these iconic Nintendo characters together. It's bringing the experiences that people have had together. You know, everyone has a different story with Nintendo. Everyone has different memories. And some people even have the same memories as you. Like some people, like a lot of other people have played Super Mario 64. So we can all come together and just, you know, compare stories and talk about our experiences together. And that's great, to be able to just come together and share your experiences with one another. And you know what? I think Super Smash Bros. Has really created this sense of unity with Nintendo fans. And I think that's why they love it so much, because it's just a celebration of really everything that makes Nintendo great. It's a celebration of all those good times that they had as children, and those times that they're continuing to have as they grow older with Nintendo. Super Smash Bros. Is a game that brings the characters together and it brings the players together, you know, because everyone is able to share their experiences. We all grew up in different ways, and we're all able to finally understand one another in that way. I mean, just look at the community that grew from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Look at the tournament scene and how the series exploded in popularity, and how Nintendo just continued to grow worldwide. I mean, the series just brought people together. And you know what? Even though people fight, even though there's a lot of controversy and debate, look at how much these games are getting people talking. Look at how much they're bringing people together, how much they're discussing and thinking and, you know, comparing new ideas and principles and morals. You know what? I just think that's something that's amazing for, as an art form, as a game. It's amazing that it can bring out this much discussion and this much talk in people. I think that's something a lot of art forms struggle with, but Super Smash Bros. Does so well. You know, all the speculation with characters and stages and what's going to be in the game, you know, it brings people together to be able to share those ideas, to share their own creativity. And when we put that creativity all together, it really does create something great. Really, to me, when I look at Super Smash Bros. And when I look at Nintendo, I just think that they make a statement that imagination and creativity is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be feared. It's something everyone has. You know, everyone sees the world through their eyes only. They see their own experiences. They have their own memories. And you know what? That's something that should be celebrated, because we're all unique in our own way. And when we have games, it brings a lot of people together because they're open to new experiences. They have those new memories that they've made over the years. And that really means a lot to them. They have a lot of sentimental value with games. And to be able to come together and just exchange our stories and our memories and our feelings together, I think that really does a lot for our community and for us as a civilization, you know, as a species, as human beings. I think that's something that human beings need to do in order to experience happiness, is to be able to understand one another and be able to relate to one another, and to be able to respect their history and their differences, and to always, you know, be open to new ideas, to new ways of thinking, to expanding their view of the world, their scope of the world. It really is hard to picture how different my life would have been if I hadn't grown up with Nintendo, if I hadn't grown to love Super Smash Bros. As much as I do. Nintendo has just given me so much joy, so much happiness, so many good memories as a kid, and as I've grown older, as I walk towards the future. I feel optimistic towards the future because of the person I am. And I feel like one of the biggest reasons I am the person that I am is because of Nintendo. If I could say anything to Masahiro Sakurai, to the development team of Super Smash Bros. That has worked so hard to create these timeless games, to everyone at Nintendo, it would be thank you. Thank you for all of the time and dedication you've put into creating these experiences for the world. Thank you for all the memories that you've given me in the past, in the present, and all the experiences that you will give me in the future for years and generations to come.